Good morning. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's case. The date is July 11th, 2024, and this is case REZ2022-00030. It is a conventional rezoning request in the Lehigh Acres community from RS1 to the CC Community Commercial District. Because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide is the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you. And I believe everyone here is familiar with the process, so I will dispense with those instructions and we can begin with the applicant whenever you're ready.
Madam Hearing Examiner, if I could,
Yes.
quickly before we begin, I would like to note for the record that this hearing has been advertised in the Fort Myers News Press on June 27th, and I do have the affidavit and the advertisement as an exhibit.
Excellent, thank you. So I will accept that as Staff Exhibit 2. Staff Exhibit 1 is the staff report itself. Thank you for that.
It works.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. Greg Stewart. I've been qualified in the Lee County Hearing Examiner's Office as an expert in comprehensive urban regional planning, zoning, urban design, and real estate land development. So I'd like my qualifications entered in the record as an expert.
Thank you. And we do have your resume on file, correct?
Yes, you do.
Yes, okay, thank you.
And then as the 48-hour letter that I submitted, the only exhibit that we are entering is this presentation. And it just occurred to me I did not bring a hard copy.
Okay.
I can provide a
Send
digital
that
copy.
electronically. If you'd like to email it to Maria after the hearing.
Okay.
I'll pre-label it applicant exhibit 1 because we will be seeing it here. If you could just do that by email subsequent, thank you.
Okay. And then also, it's my understanding that the staff report is entered into the record as a formal exhibit.
That's correct.
Okay. Before I get into the heart of the presentation, we did go through the required 33-1404 community review with the Lehigh Community Planning Panel. They did not have any issues with it. They supported it. The only substantive comment, and as you'll see the site plan and it'll be clear, that we're buffering on the north, west, and south side. The east side adjoins a 50-foot drainage canal, so we were not going to provide buffering. Their request was to provide some type of buffering, so that was their only substantive comment.
And do you have, that was actually a question, so I appreciate dealing with it at the outset. The materials that were submitted in the staff report were prior to that meeting. It was the application, I think, with the Lehigh board to present to them. I don't have the actual minutes from that meeting. Is that something that I can receive?
Yes, we were talking about that this morning. The way the Lehigh Planning Panel rolls is after the presentation, they have the minutes. They go, yes, we recommend it. They initial it and hand it to you. So they don't provide actual minutes. And then staff is saying you may want to provide a brief written summary. We have not done so. We can certainly do so if you want us to do so.
Yes, the code does require, I know that that's not their custom, but the code requires that we receive an itemized listing of who was in attendance at the meeting and then just a brief summary. So if it's that there were no objections, or just as you just testified, if there was an issue about the buffer on the east side, that would be fine as well. But we've got to meet the requirements of the code in that respect. But I can leave the record open to provide that.
Okay, sounds good. There's a gentleman in the back.
I can send it to you.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because, okay, so putting that out of the way, excuse me, the request is a 2.36 acre parcel. The request is rezoning from RS1 to community commercial. It's located on 4307 22nd Street Southwest in Lehigh Acres. As the graphic shows, it's a cleared and filled site, so the functional classification is 191 undeveloped land within urban areas. The project is to support, understanding that this is a conventional, not a PD, but it is to support a 17,600 square foot single-story multi-occupancy flex space type commercial building. We have an exhibit on that to show you how this thing is going to work. With regard to the location, it's 1 block east of Gunnery Road, and it is adjacent in terms of zoning. It's adjacent to a number of RS1 parcels. Also, you will see adjacent to C2 and CN3 zoned parcels. The property is bounded, as I pointed out earlier, to the east by the drainage canal, to the north by 22nd Street. Floyd Avenue is the boundary on the west, and again, southwest 23rd Street is the south boundary. It's very close. It's closely proximate to Gunnery and, of course, Leonard Boulevard. We agree with staff in all aspects. We agree with the staff report and hope that you will agree with the staff report too in terms of both their findings and their recommendations. The land use is consistent across the board. Certainly, it's the urban community land use is characterized by mixed use of relatively intense commercial and residential uses. As we will go forward with the presentation, the proposed project comes in at like a 17% floor area ratio. It's a low intensity commercial use, single story. It's also, and this is very important, and unfortunately the graphic, the Lehigh Acres community map graphic that is on page 4 of this slideshow, it shows Gunnery Road as a commercial overlay, but it's hard to see, you know, so you have to blow it up. It also depicts, consistent with the Lehigh Plan Policy 25-6 and subsequent, Objective 25-6 and their policies, that this is an overlay, that the subject parcel is designated for future commercial use consistent with the map that you're looking at now. And again, you could blow it up and see how that rolls. The project is informed and is consistent with the Lehigh Acres sector plan, if you will, Division 33, 1412 through 1420. So we're consistent with both the policies, the growth management guidelines, and the actual guidelines that are embedded in Division 33 under the Lehigh plan. So again, we agree with the staff report. When you look at how central this is to both Gunnery Road and Leonard and how this works in relationship to the State Road 82 and Lee Boulevard, it is rather central to this urban corridor, and again, it's almost adjacent, it's almost adjoining, but it's certainly adjacent to Gunnery. So again, we're consistent with that. And then when you look at policies 25.6, Objective 25.6 and the subsequent policies, the heart of it, without reading verbatim, is that Lehigh Acre, similar to Cape Coral, platted community, they platted for residential. There's always been a deficit of commercial to support local jobs, to decrease commuting and trip and type traffic. So this was the basic rationale for designating this for future commercial, to create more commercial opportunities for goods and services in the Lehigh Acres community.
While you're there, before you move forward, because I had this question too. So 25.6.1, the way that I'm reading the Lee plan, and I wanted to ask this of staff too. I think 25.6.1 is speaking to the lands that are within the commercial overlay, and then 25.6.2, I believe, is an additional layer that says even if you're not in the overlay, we want commercial uses subject to. So I don't know if they both apply, and the reason that it's relevant is 25.6.2 does speak about extra buffering, which of course we can't do in a conventional rezone, and I assume that would happen at the time of development order, but I need to know whether it even applies or not in this case. So if it is within the commercial overlay, then I don't think we even get to 25.6.2, but I would appreciate direction from both parties on that, on the record.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with your assessment. The germane policy is 25.6.1. It is in the overlay. But I cited 25.6.2 because of the narrative about, hey, there is a shortage of commercial lands. Then it gets into, as you point out, if you're not in the overlay, here are the various factors and standards and conditions that still would allow you to rezone the property. So I cited 6.2 because of the general narrative and direction, but the clear policy is the first one, 26.1.
I think your earlier testimony was you will be accommodating buffering or additional buffering to appease the local community regardless if that policy
Yes.
applies or not? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Then when you look at the...
Try it now.
No, you ruined it for me.
I did. It's my fault. Try it again.
Let me go backwards. Let me go forwards again.
No, I messed with it because I was going to try.
Well, can you hit the next one and maybe that'll activate it? The next page. There. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Well, go back to the next page. Well, there you go. No. Oh, yes, the next page. I'm sorry. So we're looking at page 6.
Did you want me to go back again?
No, page 6. I think that's 5. There we go. Right there. So why community commercial? Specifically, you know, the uses that we're envisioning, specifically contractors and building groups 1 and 2, repair shops, groups 1 and 2, storage, research development, group 1, those types of uses that occupy flex spaces. Clearly, they aren't permitted in RS1. When you look at C2, C2 is a obsolete, dysfunctional zoning districts with the county saying you can't use it. And then also when you look at the, in the area, the adjacent CN3, these uses aren't permitted in the CN3. So when you read what the actual definition is under 34841, CC is appropriate because it does provide a wide range of services, financial, businesses, professional offices, you know, arranged in discrete commercial centers. We'll be showing a graphic on that. And it allows for a greater amount of floor area. In this case, we're not doing that. It's a very moderate use. But CC is the most appropriate zoning district, so that's why we chose that. Let me try this now. Yes, it works.
No, I pushed the button.
Oh, rats. Rats. And then just for the record, CC, when you look at the development regulations, because it is a conventional zoning district, you have a 20,000 square foot lot minimum with the minimum lot width of 10,000 feet. Same thing with the depth. Excuse me, 100 feet, not 10,000 feet, 100 feet. You've got to have street setbacks at 25 feet, the maximum height at 35 feet, and maximum lot coverage at 40%. So in this particular case, we are proposing a single-story building, so we're well under 35 feet. We're proposing a 17,600 square foot facility that equals to a floor area of around 17%. So it fits in with the CC conventional criteria. These two graphics are helpful in illustrating the graphic to the left, the land use map, you know, the centrality of the subject parcel to the Gunnery Road commercial corridor, and also the central urban, you know, so how that fits into the Lehigh context. And then the graphic to the right shows existing public emergency services, fire and EMS. So it's very proximate to existing fire stations and the sheriff's substation. And I'll get into this in a second, but it is important to note that in terms of public services, there's no bus stop in the area, and Florida governmental utility do not, though it's in their service franchise district, they have no currently funded plans to provide for central water and sanitary sewer. Oh, okay, there you go. In regards to the site plan that I referred to, this is what we're proposing. It's a single-story building. Ample setbacks to the east. For example, if you look on the graphic, you'll have adjacent to the platted canal, 40-foot platted canal, you have a minimal 25-foot drainage area for the project, and then you have the access aisle, then the building. So you have a very reasonable setback to the residential lots immediately to the east of the drainage canal. To the north, you have, again, the same minimum 25-foot with a parking lot offset, and then you have the 50-foot right-of-way to the residential lots on the other side of 22nd. A similar accommodation on the west side with Floyd Avenue. All the north, west, and south have standard type D buffers, 15 feet, 5 trees per 100 linear feet. clustered double hedges. So you have adequate separation. The project is, generally speaking, it's internalized, with perimeter parking. And between the site plan, the low height, the low floor intensity, and the perimeter buffering, that assures compatibility, and that relates to policy 5.1.5. I failed to mention other key policies, and again, you can refer to the staff report, but the objective 21 and then the subsequent policy 21.1.1 and 21.1.2 relating to development location and services. As I pointed out, it's very central to the urban growth corridor. It has all the services that are available. Again, there are no central sanitary sewer and potable water, and there is no bus station in any area near this. So we do we do comply with the various growth management locational policies and objectives that I just referenced. Getting into water, sewer, and environmental considerations that are in policies or standards 411, we will have on-site potable water along with on-site fire protection. Manny Garcia, the engineer of the project, if you want to get into a detailed discussion on how that's going to be provided, he's here to do that. Clearly, we meet the limited commercial use standard for public water systems, so we are allowed to do on-site well, and then fire storage and fire protection will be meeting the NFPA 1142 standard for on-site fire protection, so we're covered with that, notwithstanding the lack of a central water system. And the same thing with sanitary sewer, the standard 412, because of a lack of funding for any type of improvements near this area, we're going with an on-site septic system. The project is designed to generate less than 5,000 gallons per day of effluent for treatment, so we're under the Lee County standards. So that allows us to go forward with a 64E6 type design and permit. So it does work. The project's designed to accommodate on-site services and facilities. In regard to environmental factors, the second page of the slideshow had the air photo. Again, it's a cleared and improved site. It's filled. There are no environmental sensitive lands, flowways, wetlands, that type of thing. It's outside of the 100-year floodplain. When I was there, and staff also pointed out, there was a burrowing owl nest. It was a hole. I did not see it was occupied. This was in early December, before I had the Lehigh Acres community planning panel meeting. I don't know what the status is of that burrowing owl hole. Clearly, as we go into the development order approval, we have to do a detailed survey, and then we'll document whether it is or is not occupied. And if it is occupied, we have to go through associated permitting processes. But in general terms and specific terms, we are consistent with all the environmental rules and regulations, both in the code and in the Lee plan. Okay.
Before you go forward, so the access then, in the staff report, it had said proposed access would probably be onto 22nd Street, which I believe is the northern, but this is showing it's on Floyd and 23rd.
Yeah, it's my understanding that was a typo too.
Okay.
Yeah, because we know, yeah, I think that's a typo because we never showed, because our whole thing is to stay on, to have the main access on 23rd, because that's the main, I'm not using, it's probably, it may be a minor collector, it may be a major collector, but certainly not on a local street. And then the ancillary is on Floyd, but that's very proximate to Gunnery, but no access on 22nd.
Thank you. I did a site visit already on this case, so I had concerns about that. And again, in a conventional case, we can't condition it in any fashion, but I'm glad to see that it's not actually going to be accessing that roadway.
Yeah, it's not.
Thank you.
Okay, wrong way. Going into the various evaluations required by 34.145, the key thing, in my humble opinion, really relates to 611 because that sets out the criteria for evaluation. And the first will be traffic. You know, I want to point out that this area around Gunnery and Leonard, this is in that Tier 1 priority funding that is putting in over 20 years, over $100 million for resurfacing, shoulder improvements, and the like for this overall area. The last time I looked, it had a $5 million allocation for the years that we are in, up to 10 years. So there's funding in place to improve the existing roads. Now, in regard to concurrency and level of service impacts, looking at the 2022 concurrency report, we're well under the regulatory thresholds that have been identified. And as an example, if you look at Leonard Boulevard, it's link 15200 from Gunnery to Westgate Boulevard, has a designated 860 peak hour trips for a 2-lane road with a 2021 level of service B, and that's based on 763 peak hour trips. In 2026, it's projected to have 819 peak hour trips, still at level of service B. So the conclusion is that with or without this project, that segment of road's still going to be operating under level of service B, which is far above the regulatory standard. And then the same thing really with Gunnery Road, and that's link 11500 from State Road 82 to Lee Boulevard, has 1,920 peak hour trips for a 4-lane road. The 2021 capacity was at 1,427 with level of service D. Projected in 2026, 1,522, which according to the concurrency plan is at level of service B. So again, with or without this project, they're going to be well above the regulatory standards that have been established. Screening and buffering, as I pointed out, we are going to have type D buffers along the north, west, and south. We are going to have a buffer on the east. At this stage, I'm not sure if it's going to be a commercial A or type D. The site clearly is large enough to accommodate the project and adequate buffering. 2.36 acre site in Lehigh it's a large site for Lehigh. So we meet the standard screening and buffering. I've addressed the adequacy of services, again, on-site services, and then we have public fire protection, police, EMS, that type of thing. Criteria number 5, impact on adjoining properties. That relates to policy 5.14. Between the separation provided by the roads, provided by the internalization of the building, the perimeter drainage and open space areas and the buffering, we don't see any impacts in regard to aesthetic. This thing's going to be overbuilt and massive. Again, we're showing a 1-story building. It's a flex space building, and you see that a lot in Lehigh Acres. So we meet number 5. Proximity to other centers. Planned centers, yes, because the whole corridor is planned to be commercial. Environmental considerations, again, clear, developed, no sensitive lands. One, when I was out there, it was an empty hole. We will double check that. So when you look at various other policies, the 614 compatibility, yes, we comply with that and we agree with staff, and there are programs, services, and facilities, unfortunately not central water and sewer. 616, the development rules and regulations under conventional are more than appropriate for the project. It's sized and located to allow for an easy fit for a conventionally zoned project. And then 617, it's not opening up new areas. I mean, this has been designated commercial for a long time, so by logic, if the policy calls for it, we're consistent with that. So when you really take a look at wrapping this up, yes, it meets the code. We're not asking for any variances; none are required. It is compatible with existing uses. It advances the plan, for commercial, advances the Lehigh plan, that is. We do have sound access onto 23rd and to Floyd, not 22nd. No anticipated traffic impacts. Once it gets into DO, staff will be saying, you need X turning radius. I don't anticipate any acceleration or deacceleration lanes, but again, that's a DO stuff. Adverse environmental impacts, no wetlands, no sensitive areas. No, it's not outside of the 100-year floodplain. We'll double check for this burrowing owl issue. Urban services and facilities, I've gone over that. So really, to conclude, we agree with staff findings and recommendations. We have demonstrated entitlement to the CC zoning. The uses in the CC are appropriate, and what we're proposing is eminently appropriate to safeguard the public interest. And again, when you look at a multi-occupancy flex space building, it will do what the Lehigh Acres commercial plan wants, which is to provide incubator type space for goods and services. And when you look at it from a locational aspect, I think it's going to be received really well, because you can pop up gunnery. You can get anywhere from this site, and certainly if these uses that we anticipate, specifically contractor uses, with what's going on State Road, both State Road 82 and along the Gateway area, I think that's going to be very well received, because it's very central to serve those existing uses and proposed development. So that's it. I'm available for any questions or comments.
I think that I asked them as I went through, and so we'll hear what staff has to say and then come back if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Copy of the minutes, because quite frankly, not minutes, but we had an agenda.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, I'm Mary Sue Groth, a senior planner with the Department of Community Development zoning section. I've been previously qualified as an expert witness in land use planning, the Lee County Land Development Code, and comprehensive plan, and wish to do so again today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a copy of my PowerPoint for exhibit.
Thank you. So that'll be staff exhibit 3. Thank you very much.
So I'll start with the applicant's request and recommendation. The applicant is requesting to rezone the approximately 2.36 acre subject property from RS1 to community commercial CC to support the development of a 17,600 square foot single-story multi-occupancy commercial building that is proposed to contain flex space. Staff does recommend approval. A little background information on the property. It is located at 4307 22nd Street Southwest, 1 block east of Gunnery Road South at the intersection of Floyd Avenue South, between 22nd Street Southwest and 23rd Street Southwest, and it does consist of 1 strap number, and resides within the urban community future land use category, and is zoned RS1 within the Lehigh Acres Community Plan area and the commercial overlay as established by the Lee Plan. The properties surrounding the subject property are zoned RS1, with property southwest being zoned neighborhood commercial CN3. Parcels running adjacent to Gunnery opposite the subject property are zone C2 and do reside within the mixed-use overlay. The applicant held a public information meeting pursuant to the requirements of LDC Section 33-1401 for the request. They did provide staff with the meeting document that was held at the LAAP ZRB monthly meeting on November 16th, 2023, and as we've established, we'll supply as soon as possible the meeting minutes from that. The rezone criteria covering LDC section 34-145D4A. The following slides will demonstrate the applicant has met the listed criteria for the hearing examiner to approve the request. As previously mentioned, the parcel is located in the urban community future land use category characterized by policy 1.1.4 of the Lee Plan as a mixture of relatively intense commercial and residential uses. The purpose and intent of the community commercial district is to permit the designation of suitable locations for a medium to large scale consumer-oriented commercial facility. Rezoning the property to community commercial is compatible with the purpose and intent of the urban community future land use category and the Lehigh Acres Commercial Overlay District. And allowable uses within the community commercial district are compatible with the goals of the urban community future land use category. The applicant has acknowledged that any development would require compliance with the urban community future land use category and development regulations contained in the Lee County Land Development Code. For objective 2.1 of the Lee Plan, this promotes contiguous and compact growth to contain urban sprawl. Rezoning the subject property to commercial community provides consistency with the Lee High Acres community, commercial overlay zone and the existing commercially zoned districts along Gunnery Road to the west. Objective 2.2 and policy 2.2.1 discusses the new growth in future urban areas where adequate public facilities exist. The property is located 1 block east of Gunnery Road, south in an area where adequate public facilities are established, including fire, EMS, police, public parks. Those are what are established there. The applicant has provided a letter of availability from FGWA stating the nearest water main for potable water is approximately 1.3 miles away and sanitary sewer infrastructure is approximately 1.8 miles from the project. The applicant has acknowledged that the new commercial development is less than 18,000 square feet and potable water will be provided by on-site well. And it's by a limited use commercial public water system which serves 1 or more non-residential establishments. Sanitary sewer will be provided by an on-site sewage treatment and disposal system fulfilling these requirements. Policy 5.1.5 states that development must protect existing and future residential areas from any encroachment of uses that are potentially destructive to the character and integrity of the residential environment. The subject property is surrounded by a residential neighborhood around the entire property, with the exception of the CN3 zone property to the southwest. However, the property is separated from residential uses by rights-of-way on all sides. The urban community future land use category encourages commercial and residential districts. Therefore, the request is compatible with the proposed zoning. The applicant established that allowable uses in the CC zoning district would not introduce potentially destructive developments to the character or integrity of the residential environment and indicated the proposed commercial use will protect the character and integrity of the adjacent uses. Pursuant to 5.1.6, the applicant did demonstrate the development will provide for larger setbacks and buffering consistent with commercial uses. The 15-foot type D right-of-way buffer consists of 5 trees per 100 linear foot and a double hedge along 23rd Street, 22nd Street, and Floyd Avenue will be required. Goal 6 of the Lee Plan seeks to permit orderly and well-maintained commercial development at appropriate locations. The property is located within the commercial overlay district, and the applicant has established the project's roadway network will have ample level of service capacity for the rezone request. The applicant provided, excuse me, analysis demonstrating adequate landscape and buffering will protect the surrounding residential neighborhoods, and urban services such as potable water, sanitary sewer, fire, EMS, police protection, and public parks are available to serve the proposed development. Subject parcel is cleared and undeveloped with no environmental conditions observed aside from the burrowing owl. The subject property is located nearby to residential and commercial uses and districts along Gunnery Road, making the rezone request compatible. And the development proposes a 17,600 square foot single-story multi-occupancy commercial building, and the applicant established that code-required minimum buffers and setbacks would be considered, and the proposed rezone prevents commercial development from locating in such a way as to open new areas to premature, scattered, or strip development, which fulfills Goal 6 and policies 6.1.1, 6.1.4, 6.1.5, 6.1.6, and 6.1.7. Goal 25 for the Lehigh Acres Community Plan ensures that continued development and redevelopment converts the largely single-use, antiquated, pre-platted area into a vibrant residential and commercial community. As we previously discussed, the subject property resides in the urban community future land use category, which encourages a mixture of intense commercial development and residential uses. And the community commercial zoning district allows for multiple occupancy complexes and a wide range of services. The property is within the commercial overlay, and proposed rezone from RS1 to CC fulfills objective 25.6 and policies 25.6.1 by providing additional property for commercial development. Objective 25.9 and policy 25.9.2 encourages development in areas where future extensions of water and sewer systems will be likely. The applicant has established the development will be less than the 18,000 square feet and will provide potable water by limited use commercial public water system on-site well and sanitary sewer by on-site sewage treatment. Goal 158, for the economic element, it states that Lee County will achieve and maintain a diversified and stable economy by providing positive business climate that assures maximum employment opportunities while maintaining high quality of life. The proposed rezone from RS1 to CC allows for business and employment opportunities to the Lehigh Acres area while providing a service to the surrounding community. For meets this code and other applicable county regulation or qualifies for deviations, there are no variances or deviations being requested, and the applicant has acknowledged that at time of DO, the land development code and other applicable county regulations will be required. The subject property is located within the urban community future land use category as established by Lee Plan, as we've stated before, and it's characterized by a mixture of relatively intense commercial and residential uses. Commercial uses are encouraged in the commercial overlay and within the urban community future land use, and the proposed CC zoning would be compatible. Subject property is surrounded by residential neighborhoods and sits one block east of Gunnery Road and the mixed-use overlay to the west, further supporting the compatibility of the existing surrounding uses. Adequate separation is provided by rights-of-way that surround the property on all sides as well. Again, the property is located one block east of Gunnery Road South at the intersection of Floyd Avenue. South between 22nd Street Southwest and 23rd Street Southwest, and the applicant has indicated the proposed project will now have direct access onto 23rd Street, not 22nd Street Southwest. The applicant has indicated that the carrying capacity of Gunnery Road will not be affected by the request, and that the proposed project will comply with the LDC standards at time of development order. The property is not located in a flowway and does not contain wetlands. The applicant has indicated the request will not adversely affect environmentally critical or sensitive areas. County environmental staff did provide a report analyzing the request and made the following notes in their staff report. They did conduct a site inspection observing the burrowing owl burrows that we've discussed. The applicant has stated that the property owner will obtain the required protected species survey, and the applicant will have to obtain state and federal permits for the protected species prior to improvement of the property. And a large majority of the property does appear to be cleared. The project site will require a vegetation removal permit prior to improvement made to the property. As for open space, it may be, the project is considered a small project per LDC section 10-1. The applicant will be required to provide a minimum of 20% open space per LDC section 10415A and provided buffers per LDC section 10-416D, 10-424, and 33-1405C. At the time of DO, the applicant must also comply with the LDC or seek a variance. Property is located in a future urban area and is serviced by FGUA, Lehigh Acres Fire, EMS Medic Station 10, and the Lee County Sheriff's Office East District. And in conclusion, the requested rezoning from RS1 to CC is consistent with the Lee Plan and Land Development Code. Proposed rezone provides consistency with the allowable uses within the urban community future land use category as established by the Lee Plan. Staff has concluded that the rezoning will not result in negative impacts to urban services, infrastructure, or surrounding property. The property is sufficiently served by urban services, and the request will not impact any wetland preserves or flood areas or adversely affect environmentally critical or sensitive areas. Therefore, staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request.
The only other question or area of concern I had, you covered it, was objective 25.9 about sewer and water, because there is language in the Lee Plan that discourages new development that's going to be reliant on on-site septic and water wells. But I'm assuming your testimony was that staff reviewed that and still found it consistent with
Yes.
that objective and policy?
Yes. And even further, prior to Manny's company taking over this, there was another request in for this that was for rezoning it to a multifamily district, and we, so we had already extensively covered that in that particular submittal. So once this came in, we had sat down with Manny and had a prior meeting about it, and yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we will open public comment. If you would like to, were there any comments you wanted to place on the record today? Mr. Felder? Good morning.
Good morning. Derek Felder for the record. I am a member of the Lehigh ARB group, so I can get those minutes emailed over to you guys. Our comments at the meeting that we had were somewhat brief. I think we were mostly in favor of the project. Some minor concerns about the buffering on the east side along the canal there. Is there a requirement for the entrance on 23rd to where, how close it is to Floyd? I think that was one of our concerns, that the entrance on 23rd would have to be a right in, right out, because you can't get across 23rd because there's a median there. So if you're coming into this project on 23rd, you're going to go in, but then there's no way to go back east on 23rd. You have to go up to 18th and make a U-turn on Gunnery, or make a U-turn at 23rd and Gunnery. So you're encouraging U-turns on Gunnery, which isn't necessarily ideal, but not much you can do about it. I think we talked about potentially having an entrance on 22nd Street. I think part of our concerns were fire and EMS getting around the parcel with having parking all around the entire building. I think it was mentioned that the property can be used for custom wheels and custom windows. not sure if it's just a showroom type thing or if there would actually be like semi-truck deliveries at this location. Like, how would you have a semi-truck, making deliveries at this place, And my last thing is, obviously, we've covered extensively the sewer and water topic, and previously it had been come to our group where they wanted to do multifamily, which it was determined, I think, unfeasible because it's so far to extend the water and sewer down. I just wish the 4 other developments that are along Gunnery that are currently going in, there's like 2 other grocery stores, and I think there's a gas station going in right there at Gunnery. If each one of those places would each just extend it their 1,000 feet, we'd be here. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Okay, did the applicant want to address the separation, or have you already gone to the board with your DO, or has that not come forward yet?
No, we have not gone forward to the Lehigh Board with the development order yet. Yeah, in regard to the 22nd Street access, yeah, the issue that we're concerned with is the introduction of commercial on a residential street. So you have, that type of through traffic, and we just felt that it would be much better to avoid that. Also within the context of the separation requirement for the potable water well to the sanitary sewer drain field and how the drainage system works, it would just make the 22nd unfeasible. Yeah, and then the access on 23rd, yeah, we recognize that's pretty problematic, and we're trying to space it out to help resolve possible turning conflicts, but ultimately, it's the hand that we're dealt with. And then fire protection, we are doing not anything extraordinary. We're meeting the code, 24-foot wide aisle. The entrance turning radiuses are minimal 25 feet, which is standard for fire protection. So if there is a fire protection service, certainly they can get in there and wrap around. But to me, that key thing on 22nd, because we went back and forth on that internally too, but ultimately we just felt that let's just try to reduce any potential through traffic impacts.
And it sounds like if you haven't gone forward yet, when you do go back to their board with your development order, that's when you can get into greater detail with the other items.
Yes.
And the proposed uses. You'll have a more ironed out plan at that
Yeah,
point.
well, we'll have detailed civil and architectural plans. Yes.
Thank you. Did staff have anything further to put on the record? Okay, thank you. I asked my questions as I went through, so the only outstanding item we have is just that written submission to be left open for the minutes to be in compliance with the LDC. How long do we need to leave the record open for that?
We should be getting it now?
Oh, good.
You got it in your email, you're good. Okay.
Well,
Leave it
tomorrow's
until
Friday.
end
I
of
mean,
business tomorrow, if you need more time than that.
well, yeah, because I just think then just Monday, end of Monday will be fine. And then on that, I'll email you the PowerPoint or the PDF presentation. So the end of Monday would be perfect.
Excellent. So that'll be the end of business on Monday, July 15th.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that correctly. And, excuse me, otherwise, the decision is final with me, so I will be issuing that, and you'll get a copy of that as well whenever that's released. Thank you.
May I
Yes.
ask a question before we close the record, given your agenda and work tasks, and just scheduling for my own notification, are we looking at major time out for you to get your recommended
I
order?
would
or-
imagine it within a couple of weeks.
Oh, good.
By the time, I won't, until I get everything, so I won't be able to look at it until end of business Monday, if that's when everything comes in, and then it would be, I would say, 2 weeks from then at the absolute most. Thank you, and you're not, again, unless you're electing to go to the board, if it's final with me, then that would be the end of it, so you're not waiting for that additional month of that. Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming every day. Thank you for coming today, everyone.
Yeah.
Too far ahead of myself, thank you.